Today we are going to be learning to use tone, line and shade to create a portrait. You did some of this in term 1 when you learned how to do a portrait of Ariana Grande or Shawn Mendes, but also of each other for Or a Self-Portrait. Today's a bit different because this portrait of Mary is facing slightly side on, so we need to change how we do things. I've done my best to do my own one, and I'm going to try and voice over the top of it to let you know how to do it. So you can follow along or you can just give it a go by yourself. Just pause the video whenever you need to fill in your parts to go along with me. Hi P6, today you're going to be learning to do a portrait in a slightly different way. So in term 1 we learned how to do them by using our rulers to do lines down the face, but in this one Mary Queen of Scots is facing slightly sideways, so it's a little bit different. So I'm going to do my very best to talk you through how to do it. So I've started off by drawing the outline of her face and head. So to do this I looked carefully at the picture and just drew that kind of oval shape onto the neck. I know it's really tricky to see. I've tried to put a filter on the video as best I can, so hopefully you're able to see it a bit more clearly. Then what I've done is taken my head shape and a ruler and I've drawn a really light pencil line halfway down. After I've done the halfway down, I go another one halfway between the first line and the chin. So there should be one in between, and then I go to that line and do another one halfway in between that line and the chin. I'll pop a little picture up on the file section to remind you of how to do that. What that does is gives me a guideline for where the middle of my eye should be, the tip of my nose, and the middle of my mouth. So now what I'm doing is I'm using those lines. I know they're really difficult to see on the video, but just do your best to have a look where they are, and I'm using the middle of that top line to draw my eyes. Now you'll notice that my eyes are not sort of evenly spread out. If you look at the picture, what I've also done is drawn a line about a third of the way across the head down the ways to show where sort of her facial features will start, because we are looking at the side of her head as well as the front of her face. So try your best to move the features across. Now this is a really challenging way to do a portrait. It really made me think, and I think I definitely need more practice at this skill. But you can see that I've managed to use those lines to sort of pick a pair of eyes and then bring my nose down and then into my mouth and my lips. Now she's got quite a pointy nose, so I've done it sort of dropping down a little bit further. But again, just keep looking at the picture and just do your best to try and draw what you see, taking it a bit at a time, doing the eyes first, then the nose and the mouth, and just focus on small bits of the picture as you're doing it to add the details. I'm now drawing some eyebrows on her because I thought that would give me quite a good idea of where to add more details onto her face. And we can see that that right eyebrow actually goes right to the side of her face that we can see in the picture. So I've done the same on my portrait. So now that I have added on my features, I'm using my rubber to rub out the original guidelines that I had drawn. They're really light pencils, so they shouldn't be too tricky to rub out, and you want to do this before you start adding more detail. So if you've not done so already, pause the video now and you can do your lines and then your facial features and then rub them out. So hopefully you should have something that looks kind of similar to what I've got on my page at this point. Now I'm using my pencil to add on my hair and my ear. To find out where my hair went, I looked at the picture and tried to sort of match the distance between her eyebrows and her hairline from the portrait onto my picture. You can see that actually her eyebrows and her eyes are about halfway down her head, and then it's sort of halfway in between there, her eyes and the top of the head, that the hairline starts. So the hair actually takes up quite a lot of her head. So we spoke about that when we were learning the portraits the last time. I've done my best to try and sort of use a little bit of shape in the ear to make it look a bit more ear-like. I've just sort of drawn a blob. You can do that as well. So now I am just going through and adding more details in. I'm not really doing this in any particular order. I'm just looking at the picture and focusing on specific things. Something that's really good to look for is the darker areas of the picture, because these give you ideas of where to put lines, and then you can go back in and add your shading later on. You can see that everything I'm doing at the minute, or most of it, is all just pure line work, and I've not started doing any blending work with my finger yet. So I'm just going to speed this bit up a little bit. You can pause it at any point to see what I'm doing, but just focus on the picture. Choose an object, for example her little pearl headband or her hairline, and then focus on that, and then choose something else and move on. It is all just about practice. That's the only way you'll get better, so just keep giving it a go. If something doesn't look quite right, you can rub it out. Make sure you're doing nice light pencil lines. You don't want it too dark, and that way you're able to actually rub out mistakes. Now what I'm starting to do is add a little bit of shading. You can see when you look at the picture that underneath her chin, you can see it's a bit darker, and that shows that there's sort of something reflecting there. You can also see on the right hand side of her face, especially around her eye, there is some shading. So if you turn your pencil kind of sideways and just use a little bit of lead, really, really, really light, and then blend it with your finger like we've learned to do in class. So you can start adding more shading into the ear, underneath the chin, and especially kind of around the eyes. Remember, we don't want to do too dark of like bags under the eyes, because if we do that in quite a strong line, it just automatically makes somebody look really quite old, and she's not particularly old in this picture. So if you're doing shading around the eyes, make sure you keep it quite light. Same as the line kind of between the curvy bit of the nose and the mouth. If you do that too dark, again, it makes someone look really old very quickly. So if it is getting too dark, make sure you use a rubber, and it'll kind of reduce her age a little bit. I'm going to speed this final bit up for quite a bit, because I don't want you sitting just watching me do a picture, but as it's going through, I'll talk about what it's doing. I have moved on and I've started adding lots and lots more shading. Now I'm trying to draw the sort of headpiece on her head. It is quite dark in the picture, but from what I can see, it looks like it's pearls and then possibly some tartan fabric. So I've kind of gone with just sort of ziggy zags to make it look like fabric, and then done some lines to make it look sort of a tartan pattern. I've also given her collar a go. I kind of regret doing that, because I think it made my portrait look a bit worse. It's not particularly neat. I found that really, really challenging. So it's up to you whether or not you want to give that a go, or if you just want to focus on her head. But you do need to make sure she has got a neck, otherwise it's just a floating head. So just add that detail on, do your best with the shading, and I can't wait to see what you do.